All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Black Betterment broadcast. This is show 6. Let me now actually get my. This is Rap Raven, by the way, everyone. Going to share my screen to see if I find my document. There we go. Voila. Okay, show 6. Looking fantastic. All right. Read mode. Boom. Right. Okay. So, welcome to the Black Betterment broadcast. And as usual, we start off the reason why. So, unfortunately, after much research, I've unfortunately concluded that currently black people are collectively inadequate. That's a harsh reality that I've stumbled upon. And because of that reality, we kind of need to actually have solutions. And this broadcast is actually trying to establish those solutions. All right. When we do this broadcast, or when black people generally come together, it would be good if we adopted the 4 Ds of values, the 4D values, which are discipline, dedication, dignity, and discernment. If we can try to have those as we communicate, that would be most fortunate for everyone involved. All right. So, so today we've got a good show today. We've got a guest coming up. But before I introduce all that, I'm going to do my segment, and this is a posed as a question. And one of the questions that I've heard quite a lot as I've been practicing Black Betterment and speaking to many people all over the place. That question is, where we go. Yeah, is Black Betterment compatible with religion? So we start by saying Black Betterment is a lifestyle. All right. So before we get anywhere, Black Betterment is a lifestyle. All right. Now that lifestyle is black people helping black people on black issues for betterment. So there's a lifestyle, and any way you can incorporate that, it's benefit for black people, right? So when we do that, one of the questions that might come up is that actually comparable with some of our religious beliefs, and that's very important. So what I've done is I've made a diagram, which is here, everyone can see, just to make it make more sense. Because obviously, I think symbolic shapes and stuff usually help people. Hopefully, it isn't too pixelated on your screens. Uh, so right now, let's break down. Let's break down this. So we have a person, yeah, person. We have their religion, which is here. Person and religion. So that makes sense. You're born, you're given a religion, or you stumble into a religion, or you find a religion, which is there. All right. And then even though you have your religion, you also have your lifestyle. You know, how you eat, how you go out, you might exercise, you might meet people and do things consistently, which could then be branded as a lifestyle. All right. Now, if we look at the smartphone analogy, you could see yourself as a smartphone, right? And your religion could be your operating system. You see here, your operating system. So religion, operating system, very similar analogy. That therefore meaning your lifestyle could be considered a actual app like WhatsApp or these kind of apps that make your life generally more easier, right? So this is how I envision when a person who is religious is going to practice the lifestyle of Black Betterment. They have their religion, and whenever things are constructively possible, they're going to try to take time to help their community, the Black community, do better. And how we see that is a lifestyle, is an application. It's not operating system. Black Betterment is not a religion. It's a lifestyle. Even though religions seem to bleed out into many aspects of a person's being and belief and practices. You still have room for lifestyles, even though religion, you have religion, and that's exactly why I'm showing you this analogy here. So hopefully that helps people uh, navigate through. Um, can they be religious and still practice Black Betterment? All right. So the answer from Rap Raven is yes. However, uh, people might have their own disagreements. People might have different angles, different takes, and we like debates on this show. So if anyone wants to say anything, by all means, come on and we can talk. And we towards the end of the show, we're going to invite people on as we do every week, and we can discuss this. But before we unravel more about this, we have a guest. Abdi's our guest. Now, just to make sure that his microphone and stuff is working, so what I'm going to do, let me just leave a nice picture there. There you go. Right. And let's see if Abdi, are you there? Are you there? Now, if let me, I see your mic is unmuted, but I can't hear you. Oh, maybe right. Is that you? Hello? Oh, let me. There's actually two of yous in the actual. There's one of you now. Now, Abdi, I don't know if you're speaking, but we can't hear you at the moment. I don't know if you want to leave and come back into the forum, but if you are speaking, we can't hear you. Oh, he's left, so hopefully he'll come back in, and I'll add him again. I don't know if you guys at home could hear him. I mean, I don't even know if you can hear me. If you're anyone there and you can hear me, let me know. I'm gonna put a smiley face in the forum to let you know I'm here. If you guys can hear me, just give me a smiley face, or say how we can hear you. And if you can't hear me, how will I know? Because you can't hear me. So how does that work? I've added the brother Abdi again. Abdi, can you hear me, brother? Oh, I don't know if we might be going through some technical stuff here. Might be the phone. I using a phone or a PC. To be honest with you, let me look at my Instagram, see if he's talking there, because usually he would be. And if not there, then I don't know if you use a PC at all or anything like that. We couldn't hear him. Nope. So Sister Betty there said she couldn't hear him. So unfortunately, brother, we can't hear you. So what brother wanted to talk about? He gave me a message. He gave me a message saying that he doesn't believe that all black people can actually work together. Um, what I was going to do was allow him to explain. I will try my phone. He said, "Yeah, we definitely want to hear him." Because before I try to agree or disagree with any guest, I show my symbolic imagery to see if to make things make more clear. I always like to hear people's angle and really pick their brain. And I suspect he's not the only person. I mean, I used to do a lot of debating and speaking in public, and I did hear this a lot that you can't expect a whole kumbayaism with every single black person. Like some people just can't be brought along, or some people are too challenging, and this is true. I mean, you cannot save everyone, and you cannot include everyone. But there is a way of working, and what I'm trying to push forward is that way of working. How do you work with other individuals? Um, to on a single kind of task, you know and yeah, and as I say, you got some appreciators in the forum. There's many who wanted to hear you speak, Abdi. Yeah, just so you know, guys, no, I don't believe Abdi's actually from UK. I believe he's in Europe. I want to say, I'll let him introduce himself just in case he want, but he's actually not based in England. I don't know. Here we go. Let me add him here. To the brother. I hope the microphone's working. Yeah,
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay,
Wow.
I tried my phone and I don't know what's wrong with the I think it's my headphones in the PC or something. I don't know.
Yeah, those things tend to happen, man. Not to worry, we can hear you now, which is great news, right?
Okay, you can hear me very fine, right? Very good.
Well, the thing is, I sound loud to me, but I don't know. Let me see if the people is he okay? Can you guys hear him okay out there? Let's see if anyone's well, I can hear you. So if I can hear you, I
Okay,
suspect that
I can hear you
there we
very
go.
well. I can hear you very well.
Fantastic. So, brother, you messaged me on Instagram. You said, let me just be. I don't want to misquote you at all. You said, "Hi, Raven. I agree with a lot of stuff you said about Black Betterment, but I think Kumbaya for everybody coming together won't work." Now, what you want
Yes,
to do is
yes.
explain your angle, and what you're about, and then explain what you meant by that, and then we can have a back and forth and see where we're going. Is that okay, brother?
Yes, I can first introduce myself. My name is Abdi. You know, I live in Norway, Oslo, the big city, the capital. And I have been listening to you guys for quite a while now, like maybe 1 year or something. And most of the stuff I've heard, is very good. Like the concepts and everything. But I think I agree with what you say about everybody coming together. But I think we need I agree like conceptually, but I don't agree strategically. You know what I mean? I think the only way we can come together is if we have, if everybody have each representative, like each group, because it's very hard. We have very different cultures, religions, as you say, and everything. Like for example, you have Jamaicans, you have Nigerians, you have Ethiopians, you have a lot of different groups. You have African Americans, and everybody have their culture, right? So I think if everybody have their culture, if they each have like representatives and their representatives, and come together and make us come together, because it's gonna be very hard if everybody's gonna come together like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
So
agree.
I think that's why I feel like when I've been watching you guys, it's the same type of people. It's nobody like new. It's nobody. It's not a lot of people coming together. I've only seen the same people.
Mm,
And when I talk to the same people here in Norway, like it's the same thing. Everybody is gonna fall back on their own people. It's
mm,
very hard to make people come together because we have different languages, religions, as you say. Everything is different. So that's why I feel like if you have Ethiopian people, you have Ethiopian guy representing them, or even the tribes in Ethiopia. And you have
mhm,
the same thing with the Somali community. You have the same thing with the Nigerian community,
mhm,
and you have the same thing with the Jamaican community. And their representatives
mm.
can make the people come together if they each have like an elder or like somebody who represents them.
Mm.
Or else
Now,
we're gonna just talk in circles.
yes, I agree. So what you're saying is establish the groups, right? You establish a particular unique group from a background and an area mass, right? And what you do
Yes,
is in that
yes,
particular group, you have a person like an elder or a well-seasoned person who will speak
yes,
for that particular group, right? I'm
yes,
with you.
yes,
How
yes,
I would put it is you would get everyone who wants to practice betterment for black people. So once you agree that these people want to practice betterment, then what you do is in that community you have that representative, and then what happens is in a particular city or a particularly Zoom meeting or whatever it might be, they come on and they represent. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm gonna have a back and forth with you, but before I do that, I'm going to show you a diagram because this question not just doesn't just work necessarily between different kind of like people from different lands, different religions, different groups. It also breaks down to black people with different ways of operating, right? So here's another way of how it might
yes,
work. So if you look at my screen, hopefully everyone can see my screen. Uh, there we
yes,
go. Yes, let's look. Blah, blah, blah. There we go. So let's say I broke it down this here. We've got say three different types of black betterers, right? Black people trying to help black people, right? One of them is a vegan restaurant owners. There's a whole lot of them. One of them is fish farmers, and one is container suppliers, right? Container suppliers, sorry, right? Now, obviously,
yes,
the problem you're going to have is vegans don't ever go around any slaughtered animals, so they're not going to be able to hang around the fish farmers, even though both the vegan restaurant owners and the fish farmers want betterment for black people. So in that situation, they're not necessarily going to work well around each other. But the solution might be something like this. And this analogy and symbol based diagram could work in many different areas as well. You have to pick it yourself. Now, if we have fish farmers, what we look here, right? This big circle represents the fish farmers, right? And when we look inside there, we see that the container suppliers are in there and the fish farmers are in there, but there's no vegans in there. And that's fine because these guys are going to practice betterment along in that environment. They don't necessarily need the vegan restaurant guys to come along and support them. When we look at the actual container suppliers, what do we see? We see everyone's in there, right? Because the vegans need to go there, the container suppliers need to go there for different containers, as well as the fish farmers. And then when we look at the vegan restaurant, once again, you have vegans there, you have the container guys selling there and going to eat, but also fish farmers might actually want to have a vegan meal once or twice. So the way I'm saying it is, I agree with you as in having elders represent, but also at a certain point, some collectives might not be able to work with some collectives. And the reason I say that and how this expands is that some cultural groups might not necessarily get along because of, or even religious groups might be because there might be some ways of operating that they can't do within their culture, their religion, or whatever it might be. And one of the solutions is they kind of separate in certain areas to do certain tasks, and they come together for other certain tasks. Right? This is one way. Does that make sense to you, Abdi, at all? What I've said.
yes. And I think what you're talking about is like cooperation and stuff. We have to cooperate, right? We have
Right.
to come together because even if we separate in individual cultures, you are saying some people will not work together based on strategy. Is that what you're
Right.
saying?
Mm,
So, but I think that's gonna make like if we intermingle. if we intermingle too much, as I see on content on everything, it's always in circles. Everybody is like a pissing match with everybody, as you know what I mean. After a
Yeah,
while, I've seen the discussions, and everybody's trying to win and trying to represent their own, or it's almost like they're in the individual. You know what I mean?
I
I
hear
don't
that.
see I don't see them discussing good topics. It's always the same religion or the
Yeah,
same thing about history, old days. It's
yeah.
nothing about today.
No. So let me jump in there. So just so people who might know, the brother has seen me speak in Speaker's Corner, and in Speaker's Corner, there's a lot of people who film the discussions, and because a lot of the people who go to Speaker's Corner are very religious, you tend to always get like a religious like dissing match between people, and many of the black speakers also are part of that, or they tie into that. And what I will explain though is sometimes there's much more going on that doesn't get covered, because obviously a lot of these people who create content, they understand the bigger the argument, the more views they get, the more views they get, the more money they get into their page and this kind of stuff, right? So there is that's going on, but at the same token, I am a black person who confesses that I want to help black people progress. And what I always say is when you get black speakers, do they confess this? Yeah. Or are they actually kumbayaris, or they're onto some other kind of vibe? And this is why I say like being able to identify other black veterans is important, because we waste no time with all these other stuff that isn't really about black people progressing, right? So what I would say is, hopefully, when you've been seeing me speak, my message has been consistent throughout the years I've been there, and through the many black people who go there, I only tend to really network on a more deeper level with the guys who are about the same kind of stuff. So that's what happens here. But you, brother,
Yeah,
you're from
I'm not talking about specifically. I'm talking about not only content. I'm talking about even in the American channels. It's the same
yeah,
topic. Is
yeah. You're
It's
right. You're right.
always about history or about some type of like circling discussions. It's never like about what are we doing right now. You know what I mean?
I agree. Now, what I've done because of this reality, what I've done is I've penned a lifestyle known as Black Betterment, and basically, with Black Betterment, it's very simple, right? It's black people helping black people on black issues for betterment, and that goes across all forms of interaction. So whether it's health, economics, self-esteem, whatever you name it. This is the idea. Now, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to promote this lifestyle all across the world. So people automatically by osmosis think this way. Unfortunately, black people collectively don't think this way. That's why we are in some predicaments. But brother, you're from Norway. Could you tell us a bit like how Norway is at the moment? Like, is there issues in Norway? How what's your background? Are you from the continent of Africa? Do you come from the West Indies? Break it down for us so we can.
Yeah, I'm from. I've been here in Norway quite a while. Like for almost 20 years. I think, and I'm from Somalia. I'm
Cool.
from Somalia, and
Hmm.
in Norway we don't have that many like pro-black sentiment here. And because there's not that many black people here. They're only and the black people is distracted. The people who are here distracted with knife crime, the same thing in England, or selling drugs or something, or some other like very individualistic. There's nothing like groups coming together or platforms. We don't have it. So but we have some racism here, of course, of the right wing and everything. We have the same like in England and everywhere in the whole of Europe. It's right wing stuff going on. It's like they are rising up. So that's why I see an importance in us coming together. Because if we see the rise of the far right and stuff, so it's better for us to come together. But I feel like the far right have it easier. They can come together easier because they don't discuss. I don't see them discussing and what happened in 500 BC or something like that. I always see when I see the far right stuff, they always discuss about today, what's going on right now, and
This is true. This
they
is true.
always organize and stuff. But when I see black people discussing in America or here in England, whatever, it's the same like pissing match or like you are this and then fight or whatever. It's nothing like constructive. You know what I mean?
I agree. And what you gotta understand is the only reason why black people are talking about anything at the moment is because white supremacists came together collectively to mistreat non-white people. and they've done it for so long and been so effective that they know what's going on way before we know. So right now we're rebuilding that. We're rebuilding at this point, right? And this is
Yes.
the challenge we face. A lot of us suffer from low self-esteem, lack of knowledge, and all the rest of it. And also eat like it's easier for you see people of European descent or white people in their countries, they can build with each other just by osmosis. They naturally can do things together without even know they're doing it. Unfortunately, black people from all over the world have been trained not to do that. So because of this reality, we have to do a re-education. Now, it's very important for brothers like you who come from different places to feedback how it's going and for us to be networking. So while we're building up London and England, you'll be building up Norway and stuff, and then we'll be networking with whether it's business, trade, or you name it. If there's things we need, we're going to be looking for you guys to exchange and so forth, right? But yeah, it requires us to all be on code really and all be dedicated. But I would definitely say not to concern yourself with the black people who are just not synchronized and they're left behind.
Yes.
You
And
know,
another thing, and another thing I wanted to say was like, the reason why Europeans or these white people can easily come together is they can blend in. If you have a German going to England, they can easily blend in.
yes,
But if you have like let's say a Nigerian going to, let's say, Senegal or something, it's gonna be hard, or Ethiopia, it's gonna be hard for him to blend in because he doesn't know, it's not promoted enough in those respective countries about each country in Africa. They don't know
right,
about each other. African
right,
countries and or African people don't know about each other. You know what I mean? Like if you ask, like, let's say, black people in America about what's going on in Senegal, I don't know. I don't think they know anything about it. You know what I mean? We don't cross promote each other very well.
mm,
But in Europe, the white people, they know about each other. They know about what's going on in what's happening. They learn about it, the history in the history classes, and they know about each other because they go to vacation. They know some people in their family who have been to these places.
mm,
But like if you ask my family or my extended family, have you been to Senegal or Nigeria, or have you met, do you know about these people? No, nobody knows about these people. We don't know. There's like culture shock if they go there. It's like going to Japan or something. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
Because
and
and
mm,
that's the problem. That's why I feel like these African countries or African people in the West, only the young people, if they grow up amongst each other, they know about each other. But like the people in general, care, it's very hard to come together because there's like foreign, like so foreign. Like even if inside Africa, they can be so foreign. You know what I mean?
I hear that, and I think that's where we have to understand that already when it comes to media and stuff. A lot of the European countries are more synced in with each other and they promote each other's culture and each other's
Right.
shows and
Exactly.
stuff.
Exactly.
And it does it, and that's why when I say Black Betterment, it's about looking inwards for all that kind of stuff. So, for example, we want to be networking with people from Nigeria and find out about Nollywood and these kind of things. And how do we support on that? How do we get actors to do things like that? How do we literally promote each other's cultures and each other well being? What do we do? So,
And learn about, if I feel like if we learn more about each other's culture, if Africans know, even when we come here to the West, then we can easily come together. But it's gonna be hard to come together even if we are immigrants here because everybody is focused on their own individuality or their own culture and their own, like, you know what I mean, or the Western lifestyle. The only time we come together is like Black Lives Matter or like when some crazy stuff happens, and after that
yeah,
it goes down. It goes down to the same old. You know what I mean?
right, right. So, brother, what you're saying, and there's a question from Sister Bay, which is saying, Abdi, that's a good point. Many Africans don't even leave their country, let alone for Ethiopia to go to Nigeria. So she's saying that many people don't even leave their country. What I would say to your
Yeah.
point is, like what happens is some mass horrible thing happens and everyone is motivated for the second. But what it requires is a dedicated thought process, right? Meaning a lifestyle of no matter whether black people are winning, losing, living or dying, you are constantly trying to look for black people for solutions and betterment. Yeah, it doesn't matter what the day is. Part of your being is to always look out for black people, and everything I do, how can I involve black people, right? It's like if I'm going to hire someone, can I hire a black person? If I want to write a story, will it involve black people? If I go to another country, am I trying to network with other black people? Do I still, if we do this as a lifestyle, yeah, then all these things will iron out because our mindsets. But as you know, our mindsets are not geared towards that. Our mindsets are geared towards other people. So we will help other people before we help black people, right? And everything you say is testament to that. You see, so what's
I don't think like many black people in the West think about, like what you are saying right now. Like they are very I feel like they are more distracted than what you are saying. You are saying like they are brainwashed and stuff. I feel like they are more distracted. And the distraction comes from uh,
break
because
that down
they are
when you say they're distracted and brainwashed. Break that down for people to understand. What do you mean?
because I feel like most people in general, when they come here, they just want to work and go to school and just do well because they run from their countries or whatever. So I
Right.
don't think they are focused on what you're trying to make them focus on,
Mm.
unless they see the value in it. They're only gonna see the value in it if they are affected by it. If you are not affected, if you are like these kids running around, selling drugs or whatever, like in most Western countries, when Africans come here, like they fall to crime because they're distracted. It's not about them being brainwashed or whatever.
When you say they fall to crime because distracted, do you not think that sometimes crime might be spearheaded by lack of opportunity? Or do you think that it's a distraction?
Yes, yes, it's that also, but it's you can say that for a lot of other communities also, but mostly it's black people. You have to question it why. Like you have a lot of in Norway we have a lot of people from Pakistan and stuff and Albania. They're into
Right,
crime too. They are the same as black people, but mostly the young kids who are running around selling drugs is selling the drugs for the Albanian drug lords or whatever.
right,
So even in the crime stuff there is a hierarchy,
right.
because they are not business minded. They're not like what you call it, entrepreneurial minded.
No.
They're just doing the legwork of other people on top of them. You know what I mean?
Mm.
We have the same problem here, like in England, with the drugs and knife crime, and most young kids are distracted, and nobody is even thinking about black people. This because here in Norway we don't have like the same issues of you guys have with racism and the far right. Here, the far right is very small, very small.
Right.
So most people are like just partying and just chilling. I used to be in that stuff before, but I saw a lot of things, with how black people are. They're not like together. I don't see them. It's very hard for people to come together when you have very, very individualistic lifestyle.
Yeah. So just so I can't remember the dates, but was it not Norway where the mass killings happened? Am
Yes,
I
but
wrong?
that was like that's it's the same thing in New Zealand. New Zealand don't have the far right or anything, but there was a mass shooting there. It only happened once in Norway for like 300 years or something.
Right.
It's not like in America or in UK when you have terrorist attacks or like people shooting each other. We don't have that problem. And this guy was shooting. He was having problem with the left. He was like the far right stuff, but he was shooting white people also. He didn't care about that. This is like
Yeah.
the stuff.
But but he motivating to shoot people was there was too many
Yeah, too many immigrants. Too many
right,
immigrants.
right.
Yes,
So
yes,
racism was his motivation then, is that right?
yes, 100%, 100%.
And
It's the same. It's the same.
right. So and with him, was it because I heard that because it wasn't used to that kind of deadly attacks, he received quite
I was supposed to be in that place that summer. Because I was among that group. I was a member of that, like what you call it, political group, or it's not like youth group where
right.
you go to for the summer camp or something. I was supposed to go there, but for some reason I didn't go there.
So wait a minute.
And
So let me get this right. This guy yeah, Anders or something like Anders or something like that.
yeah,
Anders
yeah,
Berg.
Anders Breivik,
Yeah,
yes,
there you go. So as far as I'm aware, he was given 21 years in jail, something like that. Is that right?
yes,
And so anyway, if that's done in 2011, that means he's pretty much done half of his time already, right?
No, I think he's never gonna come out. He's gonna live in. After 21 years, he's gonna be protected forever in some weird non-place, like not amongst the people. He can never be amongst the people, even if he's done with his time. It's almost like lifetime, but he's gonna be protected forever by the Secret Service or whatever.
All right. So after he does his jail time here, he goes into uh lifetime.
Like a small house or camp or something. Only
Right.
him or maybe very dangerous people like him together. They're gonna be just in there, and they're still gonna be. It's almost like rehabilitation center. You know what I mean?
Right. Interesting. I mean, I know people in England who haven't killed anyone who's probably got similar years to be honest.
Yeah,
So
because
it's
here in
always very
Norway is different. It's very different. The prison system here is like they want when people come out, even small crimes, they want them to be amongst the society again. It's like rehabilitation for them. They say prison is rehabilitation. That's why they have the best TVs and house and everything
yeah.
inside the prison.
All right. So so tell me about is there a small Somali community in Norway that you hang around at all or not really?
Yeah, yes. That's the most immigrants here are Somali and Pakistanis and Albanians.
Right. So this is maybe a touchy subject, but you probably noticed that if you've seen me on Speaker's Corner, you know that there's quite a considerable amount of Somali people who go there, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Have
I
you
know.
ever
Yeah.
and with the identity of Somali people, there is a lot of difference. Some don't see themselves as black, some see themselves Arabs, some just see themselves Somali. There's also unfortunately some like kind of clanism sometimes going on there, which we try to work on.
No, no.
Yo,
Somali
are
is
you
like what?
say
Hello?
again? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
No, I was saying that there is there's quite a bit of disagreement amongst the Somali community in London at the moment, as in like, are they Arab, are they black? Is there clanism going on? Should they be focused on religious issues? I'm just saying, if you watch most speakers corner, you probably see a lot of Somali speakers who are a part of that kind of like identity issues and stuff. Are you aware of that or not?
Yeah, but I wouldn't call it an identity issue. Most Somalis consider themselves Somali, and that's it.
Yeah.
And the thing about Somalis is that we are just focused on Somalis.
Yes.
Like we don't know anything about. If you ask a Somali like lady on the street, do you know anything about other African cultures? She will say, what? She will never know because maybe Ethiopia or Eritrea or Kenya, but she will never know about the West Africa or what's going on in America
Right.
about black people, because most Somalis
Right.
are too focused on their own tribal or their own problems. You know what I mean?
Right. Now, Sister Bears asks, what would Abdi like for Black Betterment? So the question is, what would you like to have happen if you could make anything happen?
Yeah, as I said, we need representatives that can come together and cross and make the people come together much more on a much effective way. That's the most effective way for me. Just like a corporation works, you have different sections, and each section can be each people, each group, and then the promoters or the people like you can represent a group, and another group can represent a guy from another city, and another for another ethnic group, and each ethnic groups can come together like that. But if you
So,
mesh all ethnic groups, it's gonna
right,
be culture
problematic.
problems,
Right.
very problematic, very very.
So would you say that you would be willing to represent the Black Betterment community in Norway or the Black Betterment Somali community in Norway? Would you say that
No,
you
this
would
is
push?
just a suggestion. I'm not. I don't think I'm just ready for like this, like a job or something. It's just
Right. Right.
like a suggestion from me. Because I have seen the same thing going on in Speakers Corner. Like everybody is
Mm.
always, every ethnic group is discussing about their own ethnic groups. We have to separate the ethnic groups, and everybody can have a representatives like you coming, and the representatives can come together on the table and discuss and make the groups come together. Because each group's gonna respect the representative, right?
So Dia said, "How do we achieve this if we want to keep putting tribes and religion first?" So what Dia's saying is, in many aspects, there are many people there. Their tribes and their religion trumps, the challenges of trying to find betterment as black people, and they will always go there, and they might probably network with other people of different racial groups because they share the same kind of like religion or tribal. It might be, who knows, right? So, do you have anything to say about that? What Dia said?
Yeah, and like I said, it's almost like going to work. I used to work with a lot of different people, but
Right,
most of my friends usually are black people, Somalis or some other races, but mostly it's Somalis. Usually
right,
before when I was younger, when I was teenager, like when I was like in my early teens, like 18, 19, I used to hang with a lot of white people, you know.
right,
But I fall back to most Somalis because that's the people you understand the most.
right,
You know
right,
what I
right,
mean?
right.
Even if you are mostly into what you call it, black culture in America or whatever, you listen to hip hop, whatever, you're gonna fall back to your own people most likely. Even I'm talking about outside of work.
Mhm.
But when we are working, we can work together. It's no problem. But it has to be constructive. It doesn't have to be discussion about going in circle about each time we discuss about tribal issues and you're not this, you are this or that. Then I feel like people are gonna divide more. Like if
I,
you see in Speaker's Corner, people are always questioning people's blackness.
yes.
That can make a person not even think about being pro-black. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So explain it. So break it down. So when you say people question blackness, has that affected you? And explain to what you mean, just so people understand that. And before you do
No,
that,
no.
I've put the link in the forum. So now we're going to open up. So anyone wants to jump in, they can jump in to have a conversation. But Abdi, yeah, explain that. Explain that what you said about question someone's blackness. Go ahead.
Like calling people like like insinuating that people are you're a traitor if you're not part of this group, or like if people come with questions, let just answer the question. Don't like assume like this guy is coming with a mentality of white supremacy or this or that. If you do that to some people, I feel like some people will step away and be like, no, these guys are crazy or something. You know what I mean? So that's why I
Right.
feel like too many discussions can make sometimes without constructive discussions can make people divide and like feel like I'm not gonna hang with those people. You know what I mean? If they think
Mm,
like that, I'm not gonna hang with those people. Then you're gonna fall back on your own culture, your own people. You're not gonna have a positive view on other tribal or ethnic groups.
right.
If those, I'm talking about for both sides, not on like one side. I'm talking about for both sides. If it becomes like that, you know what I mean?
Right. So
Because I see the same problem in Somali community. If like two tribal people discussing, and
mm,
then they're gonna have negative views about each other. If this guy said, "Oh, you're not like this. We are dominate you," or this and that in
right.
discussions,
Now, brother
then
Abdi,
you're gonna, yeah.
before you continue, there's two individuals who would like to join the conversation. Are they welcome to join to Dark's question? Is that okay?
Yeah, it's okay, it's okay.
Okay. Now, Darren and Betty, I'm going to add you now. Um, so make sure you don't say anything that's too controversial. Okay, you've been added to the discussion, Darren and Betty. Let me change the view so everyone can see everyone, and let me stop sharing there, and voila.
Hi,
Okay. Hey, welcome.
evening.
Hello.
Hi, Raven. Hi, Abdi.
Hey.
And Darren.
Right. So, and we've got one more to add. We've got the IC3 brothers. So there we go. That's fine. I think we can have a maximum of six. So we're good at the moment. We've got five. So is there any questions? So you've seen Abdi. Abdi's saying that. Let me remove this message for a bit. Hide that. Yeah. So Abdi's saying, he recommends that if Black people collectively want to come together, one idea might be you dedicate elders in each communities. He's broke it down by nationality, but it might be something different depending on where you live. You know how people come together, right? And that's an idea that I think is quite a good idea. Anyone want to challenge that or add to that or take away from that or add to it? Anyone?
Good evening.
E-
Good evening. Or
Evening.
could you explain that breakdown? You said that they're broken down into somebody's broken it down. What was been done?
Are you talking about me or are you talking about Brother Abdi? Who would you like to do this?
I think you said Brother Abdi's organized or made suggestions of how to have representatives from each group. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
so can you have you got a chart or a picture so we can see that
No, no,
presentation? Or
I don't have it, but I can break down. I can try to explain it as well as I can. You know,
okay,
like if you have because we are so different, right? We are coming from so many different places with each language, culture, even like tribe. So I
yeah,
feel like if we are tribal people, if humans are like tribe, we need to have representatives from each group, and the
yeah,
representatives can make the people come together and work together.
good. Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's a good.
Yes, because if you're gonna have one guy saying everybody come together, there's gonna be clashes.
Yes, that's right. Definitely.
Yes. So that's what I see. Most black people can have a hard problem coming together because of those clashes. It's always a religious clash or tribe clash or area clash. I'm from this area, you are from that area, or whatever.
Right.
Um, can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Yes, yes.
Um, do you need all black people to come together, or do you need like critical mass, which is like 30%, which creates a chain reaction,
I
I
and
think
think
chain
like
critical
reaction
mass,
is sustainable change?
we need.
critical mass. I would think so.
Yes, that's the end goal.
So, Sister Mary, do you want to break down critical mass for the people listening? That way of thinking that.
Critical mass is like a term in I think it's nuclear physics where they basically say it has to get to 30%. So 30%, when you get to 30%, then it creates a chain reaction, and then you get a sustainable change that will continue. If it's under 30%, then it won't be a sustainable change. It won't sustain itself.
All right.
Okay.
So if
Yeah, I
we had
think
like 30%,
that's a
so
good
for
model. I
example,
think.
yeah. So for example, like in Africa, Africa got to the point of 30% of African countries wanted independence, and that's how they got it. Because obviously, I think it was Ghana, and then before you know it, it created a chain reaction, and then the majority of countries in the continent of Africa are, free from colonization, if not economically, but on paper they're free. If you know what I mean.
Right. So we're trying to find
Okay.
get 30 people, 30% of influential people to adopt an idea, and then hopefully then it then escalates and goes through the community. But I mean that doesn't necessarily take away from what Brother Abdi is saying, like having representatives to talk for on someone's behalf. A structure, I guess, the more important word is structure, right? That we're talking about structure there,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, and
Yes.
Yeah, I was
Yes.
also saying that sometimes people shouldn't focus on. We don't need all black people to be on the same page,
no,
united. You just need a certain percentage, like 30%, in order to create that change that's needed. Because I
Yes.
don't, I don't
That's
think
right.
black people are monolithic.
no.
Like Brother Abdi's saying, we're not monolithic. Everybody's not the same. There's different cultures, different places.
So I think
Yes. Yes.
this the combination of what Betty is saying, combined with what Brother Abdi is saying, and what Rap Raven is doing, I think that is the winning formula. So now I would say that the discussion now would be to um, get down and plan the structure. So would you say, right, okay, Somalia would be a division of the Department of Africa. Then within Somali, then there'd be other divisions, departments, sorry, within. So you have a representative for Somalia, and then that representative would have been appointed by another group of representatives, represent maybe 3 or 4 ethnic tribes or ethnicities or groups, who appointed him to represent the whole of the country. So we have to draw this tree and then discuss what we think this tree should include or not include. But it's got to be visual, so people can see it, and then people can start filling the spots.
Yes.
And then we start building from that.
Yes.
So, yeah.
I hear that.
And also
So I'd like to
sometimes,
see-
yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I would say, and also sometimes, and when we come together, we have to like and respect each other more. Like I feel like people we have a lot of like egos. There's so many egos and personalities. Like wanna like dominate and like it's too much like clashes. These clashes
Yeah, but
happening because of
y-
egos.
yeah, but I think egos are just part of human nature. That's just how people are. So therefore, rather than trying to get people to change and try and destroy their ego, what you do, you just let people be how they are, but then you build a structure. So when people can see the structure, then their ego is surrenders to the structure and not to another individual. So therefore, that their pride would be hurt. Say, I'm not listening to this idiot. But if there's a structure, it's not about the individuals attending the meeting. It's about the meeting itself.
Yes.
Just like we're here now. We're here discussing Black Betterment.
Yes.
And
Like
we're focusing
what I
on a
mean is like
solution.
what I mean is like if you have like somebody representing a group, it's almost like a job. You have to meet certain criteria. You're not gonna come here and
Yes.
cause problems and scream and talk over people and like you have to like listen to your elder or the guy who's representing you, or you have to be like a job. What when we go to job, we respect that job. We have to take it
Yeah.
serious. So that's what
Yes.
I'm saying.
Definitely.
Yes.
Now, let's draw your attention to the screen. That's why when I talk about interaction between Black people, I'm pushing for the small template of the 4D values, which is discipline, dedication, dignity, and discernment. And now, hopefully, if we're using
Yes.
these 4, that should be able to help us have some kind of structure when it comes to trying to find solutions. But like what Brother IC3 says is, yeah, it's like we're kind of geared towards a goal, and not necessarily a personality, right? So it's working on the goal. But
Yes.
what's the most efficient way to work? The most efficient. And but before I let anyone else speak, Brother Darren, is there anything you'd like to say? Because you've been in here, and I'd like to cut you off. So, is
No,
Brother
I was just actually waiting to jump in and not be so rude. But yeah, thanks for letting me, giving me a segue there. But yeah, a few things I agree with, a few things I don't agree with. The thing in terms of the ego aspect, that actually, yeah, those people who do have an ego, we need to tell them bugger off. To be quite frank with you, we're seeing one too many things in this country and also in the US where people believe they're bigger than the cause. They don't want to work with somebody else because they believe they're better or they should be having that limelight. So no, I'm sorry. The ego aspect, if somebody's got an ego, get lost. We don't need you. If you can't come together as a collective, and just like you've just shown us your 4Ds, that is an ideology. We follow your ideology. We all do, regardless of what culture you come from, you follow our ideology. Why? Anybody falls out of not following that ideology, goodbye. We're not following one person, we're not following a group, we're following an ideology. So once again, you can't fail when you do that. And that's what the world doesn't want us to do. They want us to keep bickering and fighting and cussing and carrying on But when we come together as an ideology, and just as Sister Betty has already said, and as I've mentioned in the comments as well, critical mass. We don't need everybody. Like I mentioned before, Malcolm, Harriet Tubman, Dr. King, Marcus Garvey, they couldn't get us all together. So who are we to think we're going to galvanize every of the black people around this planet? No chance. And besides, in my experience, unfortunately, there's a lot who don't get it, don't want to get it. And yeah, I'll jump on board when I actually see things moving. I don't want to play with you. I don't have time for you. I hear the phrase being said now and again, oh, you know, each one teach one. Yeah, how many times must I keep trying to teach someone who really doesn't give a foggiest about what we're trying to achieve? No. So once again, yeah, in my opinion, there has to be an ideology to follow first and above everything else. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. That's well spoken there. And I agree. Following some kind of template, some kind of idea or system, so everyone's on the same page. That's something we try to push forward. Well, like I said, when you try to do any kind of like forward trajectory of anything, right? It's the people who are most interested who are going to step forward anyway, right? So you never need to worry about the naysayers, the people who don't really get it. But what I would say is there is layers. So yes, there are some people they need to see certain things prosper before they can commit for many reasons. So that will go on as well. That will go on as well, and I've seen that happen. At first when I say certain things, people are standoffish. But when they see some of the results and they understand they can actually invest in it, then they step forward. This is.
But that's what I would say, brother. Critical thinking needs to come in. Once again, you start a new business. What, you're flying straight from day one? Hell no. You've got to build a business. So once again, this critical thinking in the black community needs to have a kick up the derriere. It really, for the majority of us, it's not there. You need to be able to be strategic. Right, fledgling company, new company. Right, are they going to have fun straight away? If you're lucky, you might do, but not necessarily. Are you going to be earning £1 million a year? If you're lucky, you might do, but not necessarily. So I appreciate what you're saying there, brother, but yeah, I think some of us are being a bit too kind with those who aren't on it as I would like us to be on it.
So when you say because my camera cut for a few seconds, but what is it that you're pushing forward in the sense of on the solution to this? Like, how would you operate? How would you like us to operate to lower this particular annoyance?
So, like you was mentioning, you were saying that you have a few of us who will stand at the sideline. What you doing? Oh, okay, yeah, it's not quite what I'm wanting. Yeah, I've seen this all before, and this happens, that happens. Well, guess what? If you can do better, if you know better, stand up, be known. Enough of the I've experienced that. Oh, I was expecting that. I was expecting that. Well, respectfully, come forward, put your ideas forward, and let's discuss. Let's have a proper discourse about this. So, because once again, like I said, I'm in a few black organizations myself, and like I said, it's a case of where you have to either stand up and be counted or keep grumbling at the sideline. Oh, I've experienced this, black people, Oh my God, how bored are we of that rhetoric now? We are our own failing. We are our worst enemy. Really? Really? Is that what put us all in this position? Is that what really happened? Because even, we might as well go back to the good old days of saying, oh, yes, many Africans enslaved other Africans. They stole this into really. It was at such a critical mass. Yes, I'll give that word again. It was such a critical mass of other Africans in selling other Africans into slavery. Yeah, that's why you see it plastered in all the history books, right?
Yeah, I hear that. Anyone want to chime in, guys?
Yeah, what I want to see and say was, you guys have seen, which the grapevine, in America, the platform. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah.
What's it
We
called?
need to create we need to create some type of platform like that, in other places where people can come together and respect each other and have a discussion.
What was that
Not
platform?
like,
Sorry, right down. Sorry, Abdi. What was that platform? I didn't hear you.
the grapevine.
The Graper.
The grapevine.
Oh, the Grapevine. Grapevine. Let me write that down.
Yeah. It's like they come together and they have a topic for 1 week or two, 1 day a week or something, and they discuss it. Good, it's not shouting of each other. It's not like they're about solutions. They're about. I don't see that in Speaker's Corner. That's what I'm trying to say. It's always the same, like discussioning about
Yeah.
going in circles. It's always in circles.
Yeah.
It's a show by a Nigerian American lady, and she has a proper camera crew and a producer, and they get round the table and they get several different black people, and they set a topic, your question, and then they all discuss it. They've done like I think 2 or 3 videos in London, but they mainly go around the United States of America. But like Brother Abdi said, it's not like Speaker's Corner where it's like a free for all.
Yeah. Well, what one
Yes.
thing, discipline is important. One thing I try to do when we have our speaks is make sure it doesn't become like a free for all or like a slugfest, whatever. But I do recommend like before you have any kind of open debate or talk or discussion, you have some house rules. And one of the house rules is we don't want it to be a back and forth kind of like frenzy, right? So this is this is what I try to push forward. But yeah, I do know the show. I'm actually following them right now, so I've seen that show. Okay. So so let's just try to recap. So what we're saying is the show is about you know is is it possible for all black people to come together? And then as we've been speaking, Sister Betty and Brother Darren are saying no. It's probably best we try to achieve critical mass. Brother Abdi has said that one way to do kind of like a structure is to have certain people represent certain people to bring forward issues, so that way it's easier to actually get things across. And Darren Brother Darren is saying that sometimes you have to be a bit more harsh with people, and sometimes you just if they're not going to be there, they're not going to be there, and you do what you're doing. Um, is that correct thus far? My summary of people's
Yes.
points. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Um,
Right.
could I say
Can I
say
mention?
go on then?
Oh, so can I just mention like something that Abdi said that I think is really true in terms of Africa, like in terms of Africans not knowing other African cultures. Because I know like the average like Nigerian wouldn't know about, you know, Ethiopia. Or somewhere like some people like all the way from that side. Even when I was just speaking to my mum, and I was speaking about our ethnic group because we're like a mix of a Bantu ethnic group with another ethnic group, and like just the idea that you'd be related to people in Congo. My mum's like, no, your ancestors couldn't have come from the Congo, and the Congo's not that far from Nigeria, let alone to go all the way to Ethiopia in the Horn of Africa. And I think that's what a lot of the issues are. That a lot of Africans just don't, move around, and if they don't come out of Africa, they don't. Some of them don't even leave their country. And because my mum couldn't understand like how there'd be Bantu ethnic groups all the way in South Africa, in the Horn of Africa, all those type of places. But she thinks it's perfectly normal for her to be thousands of miles across the world. But her ancestors could have come from different places in Africa.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean?
Well,
They're all just from Nigeria.
well, I'll put this to you then, Sister Betty. It's similar to us in the UK. You've got people in London, black people that is, they never step foot out of the M25 area. You tell them, where you from? Leeds. Oh, right. Yeah, there are black people in Leeds and there are black people up north, my friend. They don't have a clue. It's just like us trying to do this thing now. with me, I'm always trying to advise whichever group I'm in, people, let's get things nationwide. This thing of always thinking that London is the be all and end all, no, it's not. Or otherwise, you would have been much further ahead. So when people start understanding, you don't necessarily have to know each tribe and each way of living, because heck, I can't tell you, say hand on heart, I know a difference between Nigerian, Ghanaian, and Rare Tete. No. The world's too big for that. I ain't no historian. But like I said, so long as you can all get together under the ideology, cool. But yeah, like I said, we got the same thing over here in the UK. You do truly have, to a degree, a north-south divide.
Mm.
I would say it's more like people just don't know. It's not about divide and people trying to isolate themselves. They simply just don't know. In Africa, if you ask my extended family, do you know anything about Senegal? They will say, I've never met a Senegalese in my life. They don't know anything. And most news they get is Western news. They look at what's going on in America or UK, or they watch this and that. So people in Africa, they don't know about each other. And when they come to the West, they still don't know about each other. We don't know about what's going on in France with black people. I'm sure a lot of black people in France don't know about us either.
Right.
I'm sure you guys didn't know there's a lot of and there's some black people here in Norway. Like maybe you have never met black people in Norway. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I'm aware of many black people. You're right. Many people are not aware. But what I would say is, there should always be a purpose. So the reason why this show exists is because there's a purpose, right? And the purpose is when a person is identified as black or has the phenotype or the cultural background of that of an African or an Aboriginal black person, there seems to be some kind of challenge that seems to follow them no matter where they find themselves. And this seems to be consistent, and there seems to be a history towards this. So, because of this reality, what I'm pushing forward is all those people who identified as such come together to work on solutions, because if everyone else is looking towards you in a negative manner, it's up to you to look at yourself in a positive manner. So there is the purpose, right? And the goal is for betterment in there. So establishing to other people, this is the reason why it makes sense to know about each other and to network with each other and to generally look out for each other, because in a certain case, you might be the only ones you have, especially when you're traveling to different lands and so forth. So that's purpose.
It's a very good point. I've been lucky enough to actually travel around a bit when I've been working. Hong Kong, Norway, where our brother is, Finland, Denmark. So I've seen various black people there. Now, it's a very funny one. We still do have the same issues in certain places there as well. For example, I can remember when I was in Denmark. I remember one brother telling me that, oh, well, actually, there was a black guy who had a shop. Yeah, he was selling our food. Arab dude opened next door to him, selling it cheaper. And guess where everybody went? And guess what happened? Guess what impact that had on our brother? Shop closed. So like, oh, funny that, isn't it? Same template seems to work wherever you go in the world.
Yes.
However, I did notice in those lands where we were more sparse than in the UK, for example, to a degree, there was actually more brotherhood or sisterhood to a degree. For example, Hong Kong. I was walking pan road, see brother cross the road, him look pan me, I look pan him, fist up in the air, we kept it moving. So to a degree, there's a little, because it's more closely and tightly knit, you're forced to a degree to keep it together. And especially when you go to the barber shops, then you start relating even more. So even that in itself was like a little community, which once again, you get to know people. It's like I said, it's funny how there's certain templates what seem to be the same around the world, no matter where you go.
Can I share something?
Go ahead.
Yeah? Okay.
Yep.
Let me know what you think of this. In Tottenham, I was organising a think tank. We were running for a few years, not many of us, because it was very intense. And when I organised the think tank, I said anybody who's coming into the think tank, is a member of the think tank, you have to say what how you identify yourself. And before we start going into discussion, so this is all black people, because I'm saying IC3 black, yeah, but I wasn't saying to them you have to call yourself black. Just identify yourself as you see fit. So in my mind, it's IC3, it's black people, and they're all black people. But when I asked the question, I said, look, I'm going to read out some of the feedback I got from the people. This is how black people were identifying themselves. So there was two columns, yeah? The first column was they had to say, what are the elements or the criteria or the standards in order to hold that identity that you're about to share. And two, what is the position or the group or the community that you're from? And so one member said, I won't read this, quite a few here, but I'll just go through a few. Okay, so how do you what is the criteria? This person said language, culture, and lineage. And what group are you identify with? And that person said, I'm a Barbadian of African descent. And another person, they said, no, birthplace, lineage, appearance, and mindset. And that person said, I'm an IC3 B9, other black. That's me, obviously. Then another person said, oh, birthplace, bloodline, and culture. And that person was an African of Caribbean extraction. That's how they described themselves. See? So everybody was identifying and describing themselves. Another person said, what are the criteria? One person said, oh, energy. And what are you? He said, I am divine will intelligence. So that's how the person described themselves. Another person said, lineage, appearance, and mindset. And I'm a black Hebrew Guyanese. Yeah, so I can. Yeah, I think some of these you might find that you're how you would identify yourself. But how would you? What would be the criteria for the identity that you have identified yourself as? And two, what community are you a member of? Yeah, so yeah, that's just a taster. Just some of the. What do you think of that?
Well, to be honest with you, I'm very familiar with that question because when I pose it myself, and the response is always the same, right? And I think some people say, obviously, black people are not a monolith, and also some people are happy to be defined, and some people want to define themselves. But what I would say is, if you have a meeting full of people seeking black betterment, and the meeting is full, regardless of what people identify, they find themselves in that spot because they realize there's a mutual benefit for being there, right? So that's how I see it. So for me, even the way I write black here, I write the word black and I put a star next to it because I understand that some people, they have different identities of how they want to, represent or whatever it might be. But I think generally, for the most part, when we say the word black or IC3 or however you want to pull it, even that black and IC3, they're two different words, but they represent the same thing, allegedly, right? So yeah, I don't really get bogged down with how a person defines unless they generally do not synchronize with the group that we're working towards. And in that case, then they will not be necessarily a conversation that we need to have because they don't want to work in correlation and they don't want to identify. And that's another thing. There are some people who are offended by certain terms. I've heard some people say, use the word black. This is a word that I don't be associated with and stuff like that. This kind of stuff. And I allow them to have their freedom how they think, but they have to understand that when we're moving forward, these words will be on the banner. And this is
right. Okay.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yes,
and
it's very serious.
And just so you know, if I was just quickly, let me just quickly share you a screen of share screen. Here we go. Boom, boom, boom. Share, and then let's go to where we go. Let's go to this one here. So if I share the screen, if you look at my screen now, it says Black Betterment. But if you look around here, there's a little star, right? And there's a little star, and there's a little BB here. The reason I always write black this way, and it should be in all the documents I do, because I understand that the people who identify or identified as black, they might collectively, when times are more in their control, name themselves or ourselves. And because of that, that star represents the many words and the many notions. So, for example, just to move forward, I've made it clear that historically the people who have been identified as black are the people who I'm pushing this lifestyle for. I understand that some people might come from certain places in Australia, certain places in Africa, certain places in America, where it might be, where they go, oh, well, our lineage is slightly different. We come from different types of black people. I'm saying that because of the history of being labeled as black and thus being treated as black, historically, this is the collection there, that these people are coming through by being identified. And that's what it is. And if ever there was a problem with an Aboriginal being called black and an African being called black, I would then push forward the word greater black. And what that means is in India, you have India and you have greater India, right? In London, you have London, you have greater London. So if we have any challenges with different people from different black backgrounds, then I shall use the word greater black, which is encompassing the
Okay.
historic. Does that make sense? But either way, it's
Yeah.
all for this word. I hope that makes sense to you.
Right.
That's how I.
Can I? Well, I want to put a challenge out there. I'm
ahead.
saying that okay. You said this is about Black Betterment, so it attracts a certain types of people. Yes. So they arrive in the place. It could be a conference, it could be a room, it could be a stream like this. So people gather under the title Black Betterment. Okay, so it attracts certain types of people. So as they come together now, and then they start to talk, I think the issue of identity. You may disagree with this, but I'm opening up the challenge now. I'm saying that so stage one, yes, you bring the people together under Black Betterment. Stage two, you say, okay, how do you identify yourself? How would you like to be identified? What is the terminology that you're most comfortable with?
Right.
Get that out, and then I'm saying now, this is where I think we may disagree. I'm saying that to effectively move forward, right, after everybody in the group has acknowledged all the individual ways in which people would like to identify themselves, in order to move forward effectively, you have to have a uniformity in terms of identity in order to organize effectively.
Yes.
So, brother, haven't you just more or less gone back on your second point? Because, I mean, tell me if I'm not mishearing what you said. You're saying, well, number two, tell us what
Yep.
you'd like to be effectively labeled as.
Yes.
But then your point number three, you're saying, well,
Yep.
ultimately we will be labeled X.
Yep.
X is what we will be. Nothing more.
Correct.
Nothing.
Right. Good. So there seems to be a conflict there. Yeah. I'm saying stage two is that I believe you have to allow people to express themselves and address the question of identity specifically before you can go into stage three. So the ultimate goal is to go into stage three to work under a uniform identity, just like any organization or corporation or military operation that's organized effectively. They have to come under. They have to get a clear codification for identification, what their position is, what jobs they'll do, and so on and so on. But but before that becomes strong and clear, stage two is just allowing people to become aware of themselves. Because when I ask these questions, how do you identify yourself? What are the criteria for that identity, and what group do you see yourself as? A lot of them were shocked. Their faces were shocked. They'd never been asked that question before.
Mm.
They were shocked, and and putting it like that, because some people were saying, well, what's the criteria? Some people were saying, oh, it's appearance and mindset. Some people were saying, oh, it's culture and lineage. Some people say, oh, it's energy and vibes. All these words I was writing down, and that's the criteria. And then some people were calling themselves more. Some were saying Black Nubian. Some were saying I'm a god. Some were saying I'm a divine being. Some were saying I'm a Black Hebrew Guyanese. All these different identities. Some were saying I'm an Afrinician. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But I think why it worked for the group is that people had to express that first.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, just question to you: is it possible to be two things in your understanding?
You asking me?
Yes, brother, I see three.
Yeah. Two things. Yeah. But so it's like you when you go to a job, you put on your uniform or you dress for work. Yeah. So your IDs goes with the job or the mission. But when the mission or the job is finished, then you might relax and chill out, whatever. You understand? So there's a difference between the mission and just being yourself and chilling out. Yeah. Right. So I'd say yes.
So here's why I push forward. So in order for me to get like a pathway and structure, I always write things in a certain way. So for example, I'm promoting the Black Betterment lifestyle, which is Black people helping Black people and Black issues. So the question then comes, who are Black people, right? On the document on the screen at the moment, there's not all, there's probably one or two missing we have to update, right? But there's many different people who have been identified as Black throughout different regions of the world, right? With different lineages and stuff. It's all here. So the way I see it is, if you are a Khan, you are a Cape Colored, or you are a Grandar, or whoever it might be, you qualify for Black or quote unquote greater Black, yeah, or however we want to label it, right? And the lifestyle and people come together to work on issues is inclusive of those kind of people. So Zulu, Baka, whoever it might be, they both can be seen as Baka and Black or greater Black, right? So when I'm pushing out lifestyle manual scripts and ways of interacting, is for inclusion of them. So right. They can call themselves a more or a Black or more as long as they want, because they are. They're not. It doesn't matter, right? But yeah, they understand that identification qualifies for Black Betterment. So let me tell you something, right?
Right. Good.
Right now, being seen as Black historically came with pain, right? Meaning that if you're Black, you lost rights.
Yeah.
So many people might not want to identify as Black, but let's just say that we have a movement, right, where everyone comes together and they start making benefits. If you're Black, you get benefits. All of a sudden, everyone's going to be Black now, and even people who want to be Black will say, "No, I am Black." The Italian man will say he's Black.
I want in.
Yeah. The Japanese man will say he's Black.
That's right.
So we know
that's right. That's what happens.
So the teething process is getting those elite few together to make the collection and the lifestyle so appealing, right, that everyone wants to be. So, for example, when you look at American culture, right, the African American community have been heavily marginalized and mistreated. But in that mistreatment and marginalization, they managed to come up with some of the most creative expressions with hip hop and jazz and stuff.
Yeah.
So because of that positivity, people want to exist through African American culture as African Americans doing jazz and hip hop, innit? So it's like they want to stand next to African Americans to codify their their art, whatever it might be. So what I'm saying, as long as you're productive, and you're constructive, people want to be what you are. But
correct.
So we are in the teething process of getting that together. But I am saying that Black people or great Black people are all under this banner, and I've made documentations to put the Nubian, the Sudanese Arab, the Tariq, and They're all and it's all here. And anything I
It's a
give
great
out,
document.
there you go. Yeah.
It's a great document.
There you go. So that answers your question. So yeah, in my estimate, you can be two things, and I think we were talking about layering before, weren't we? Right. So you were saying that okay, you have the Ethiopian who's the Ethiopian council, but he might be appointed by the African Council, and that African Council might be appointed by the Diaspora Council or the World Council or the Black World Council, right? And I think it's the same. You know, it's where you're having many different badges, but what I was finding is when it comes to mistreating black people, every non-black person knows who they are. Yeah. When it comes to crime, yeah, you see. So there's an osmosis that goes on through the culture, through people. They know how to find black people and who they are. It's only when it's only when we try to get organized or we try to get benefits, people don't know who black people are. And
exactly.
This is part of the mistreatment. So I'm saying we have to collectively know this, and that's why I support the thing you say, brother, IC3, because you like to get things down on paper so we can view it and go, here's what we're moving towards, here's what it represents, let's go. And that's why I do as well.
Yeah.
So
I like the document. Yeah.
So may I chime in for a moment there?
You can.
So my problem with that is, other than black people, African people, anybody else, no matter where we go, they see us as very homogeneous. We're all alike.
Right.
They don't care where we come from. They don't really know where we come from. And they, for the best part, they really don't give a hoot. So you could be from Africa, South America, North America, the UK. They don't care. All they see is black. Right. Now, I understand what the both of you are saying there, but what that to me does, in a way, is kind of waters down the word African. We don't really have a sovereign state. We get in trouble. We get brutalized, murdered, abused. Who can we rely on? Oh, go to the state of black. Where's the state of black? Oh, you know where black is. Africa. Oh, so why didn't you just say Africa? There you go. If it's not a case where we're pushing the word African for all those of lineage from Africa, we're truly missing a big thing here. Because ultimately, when we're pushing for reparations, fair justice, and so on and so forth, ultimately we are all saying, well, because we are African, of African lineage, we're not saying because we are black. Yes, that's what they've labeled us as, but ultimately we are of African lineage. That is why you're getting away with what you're doing right now, because we are not utilizing that African word as full as we should be, in my opinion. So I fully appreciate what you're saying, where, you know, we have to utilize the word black. It can have its own connotations in terms of who it brings in, who it disqualifies, and so on and so forth. But I really think we really should be still pushing utilizing the word African. Or ultimately, when do we start talking about Africa herself?
Okay. Bro, do you want to talk IC3 or should I jump in? How do you want to do?
Yeah, you can go first because I'm ready. Yeah, go on.
Exactly. I'll jump in and then you can jump after. So I agree.
Yeah, do you want me to speak first?
Yeah, you speak first. I'll jump in afterwards. Go ahead.
Yeah. You're the host, so yeah, you have the final word. So now that's a very good point raised by Darren, and it's much debated, much to argue. You know, now the question is, which is more powerful? Black identity or African identity as an organizing identity, which will be more effective, which will be more powerful. Obviously, I'm on the black camp, but I have a lot of friends on the African camp saying, no, we're African first, and this is a great debate. And I say, from my from the black perspective, I'm saying the reason for black is more powerful is because it can be doubled. You can have a double twist on it. You can use black and blackness as a commodity identity as a commodity, as a value, and you can then also use it as a people, and you can swing one way or the other. You see, so when it comes to claiming reparations, then the systems and the finance and the insurance and all the big business and all those organizations that were involved in it, they were dealing with black people or black units or commodity, and so black people were just like black animal is a commercial entity. Blackness is an asset class, as an asset class. But yeah, we could swing it on the other side and say, look, when we're dealing with justice, that these were actual people. So there's a bounce between the asset class and the people. And so I'm saying that blackness and black identity is more effective for bringing reparations into the struggle.
Excellent. Let me jump in my perspective. So for the purpose of this conversation, I'm going to use the word greater black to represent black people, right? And it'll make more sense as I go through. So with Black Betterment, it's multifaceted in the sense of there are many black people from all over the world who have different claims and different needs and so forth. So by using the term African, you might exclude certain people for certain reasons. Some people might not be ready for that term. I'm ready for that term. But either way, because I mentioned the concept of people being mistreated for being labeled as black, that means there's some people from certain parts of like maybe Papua New Guinea and these kind of places who would also benefit from a lifestyle of Black Betterment, right? And contribute from everything we're doing, but they are far removed from an ancient standpoint from being connected to the African continent, although phenotypically they still retain the characteristics that connect them to that landmass, right? And because of the phenotypical presence, they might face similar challenges that people in Jamaica go through and so forth, right? So when it comes to reparations, I think all the African nations and the African nations should go for it. And in that claim, you are Pacific. Like, I am a Jamaican. I was mistreated by the English government, whatever it is. We want this. That's why in America at the moment, you've got the whole Foundation of Black American and the ADOS thing that's going on. And I fully support that, even though I am not either of those, right? And if I live there, I'll be supporting both those movements, even though I would get nothing from it, because Black Betterment is multifaceted, and sometimes others have to benefit. So you are inspired by that. So you go to the area you're coming from to do the same kind of thing. So that's why, but that's why, literally, anytime you see the word black on a document with I've written, you have that star next to it, and that does represent Africa. You know, it represents Africa because it's about the person reading it. What does it mean to them in the land they currently stand, the mindset they're currently at? I hope that makes some kind of questions, Brother Dan, but obviously you can take the next dimension now after you've heard our responses. Go ahead, Brother Dan.
So we can either let Sister Betty and Brother Goab add in their bits and then I'll interject.
Go ahead.
Or I can just jump straight into it.
Well, let's see if they're going to say. You're going to say, Dilwad and Sister Betty?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Yeah.
Brother Dan was saying, do you not think it a bit more constructive to, rather than use the word black, we use the word African?
I think probably there are people who are not comfortable with that term African, who would still want to help people of African descent, but they just don't want to be called African. So I would just stick with the black term. Either stick with the black term or the African. I don't think it really matters what you label it as. Most people know what you mean if you come across dark brown people. Because for example, I know people. I've got a friend from Jamaica. She would never call herself African, but she says her ancestors came from Africa. She says she's Caribbean. Do you see what I mean? So, but that she does want the betterment of Africans and black people and stuff like that. But she just doesn't feel like, obviously she's never been to Africa. You know, her nearest relatives, like her grandma, her mum, have never been to Africa, so they don't feel like they're African, but they recognize that their ancestors came from Africa. So I don't feel the need to force that title African on her because she already knows that. She's just like she doesn't feel like she's that. She just feels like her ancestors are that, and that her culture comes from the Caribbean. So that's why, for me, I can see why some people prefer the black term. But I think
I think
whether people come and calling themselves black or whether they call themselves African and black, um, let people call themselves whatever they call themselves as long as they want to uplift black people.
yes, I agree. I think it's the same, for Africans, they have, just like you said, you have a friend, she will not call herself African because she don't consider herself African. We have Africans who don't consider themselves black. It goes both ways. So we have to use both. If you are talking to an African, just say African and ask. If you are talking to people from outside of Africa, just ask them, what do you identify as? That's the first thing. Because if you try to say we have to accept black or African, there's gonna be divide again. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
I agree.
Brother Darren.
So my response is as follows. Brother Raven, I'll rock with you wherever, whenever. So I understand why you're saying that it's either black, star, or black, grey to black. I understand it. I understand the, uh, yeah, I understand why you're going down that route. It makes perfect sense. The problem being now, without being that argumentative so-and-so, is what's going to stop any white man or white woman, Indian man, Indian woman, whatever, who ain't necessarily African, from saying, hey, I'm black as well. What we've done, you've opened the floodgates for now being as opposed to what used to be $5 Indians, if those are aware of the history of how the white men actually paid $5 in order to sign up to being some kind of Indian tribe. You have now opened the door to $5 blacks or $5 Africans. You haven't stipulated, well, you saying you're black, well, yeah, we understand that's a colour, but it's not actually a state, it's not actually a land. We're just stating a colour. Such as back in the good old days, we was labelled as Negro, coloured. I absolutely hate that term. And now we have black. Once again, somewhat put upon us. Whereas African completely tells us where we're from. Just as someone would say, I'm Pakistan. Oh, you're Pakistani. Yeah, because you're from Pakistan. I'm Indian. Oh, why? Because I'm from India. Right. So this is where we need to be very careful in respect of that lovely word black being promoted, but at the same time educating those who seem to have a bit of a seem to have a bit of a problem calling themselves African, as Sister Betty mentioned with her friend from the Caribbean. She would rather call herself Caribbean just because she believes, well, I haven't been there. None of my family have been there. Why should we call ourselves African? That, to me, please don't take no offense with this, Betty, but that does really spout a bit of cowardice and actually being ashamed of one's heritage being from Africa. And on top of that, more than likely, we was enslaved. I don't want to be a part attributed to that. No, I'd rather just be black.
Right. So my 10 pence to that. I hear that everyone spoke very wonderfully there, and everyone, this stuff I've heard from everyone, everything everyone put forward, I've heard through my speaking, and we will hear again. And what I would say is this: I agree with you, brother Darren, but one thing you always have to keep in the mix is, just like you're saying, some people are gonna say, "Well, I'm black," and they're from a place that hasn't historically been known as black, whatever. Well, the same thing happens and has happened and does happen in Speaker's Corner and in the world when it comes to Africa. So, as you might see many other debates, you see non-black people or people who descend from Europe or descend from the Mediterranean or Arab lands or Asia oriented, on those kind of places, say, "No, I'm African as well. I'm African." And you've probably seen massive debates and people getting really very hot hot and bothered about this definition. So that's why having a very easy changeable thing, we go, okay, we're talking about the black Africans. You see? So when they say I'm African, okay, you could be a white African. I'm not gonna argue if you're white or not, or black or African or not. I'm gonna say in your country, when you are all both African, we find that the black Africans are at the bottom and the non-black Africans are at the top. Just like we find the black whoever in different lands find themselves at the bottom. So because of this reality, it's for them we're trying to seek betterment. That's how I address it, and that's why I can use black and African interchangeably. And on this, because I am the author of Black Betterment, I'm pushing it forward, and I'm pushing it at very particular, rigid kind of ways of operating. I now can actually define black people, and I've defined it by the historical people who have been labeled black. And that's why you can go to Wikipedia, you can look up Afro-textured hair, you can look up black people, and you can look up sub-Saharan African. And all these three groups, the collection of people groups that's in there are made up of the list you see here. And these are the people who I'm promoting that should practice black betterment in their lands. And then when they prosper and they become better in their lands, they then reach out to other black people in other lands to form other forms of betterment. So they have some form of culture and development and defense from mistreatment from non-black people. That's how I put it, if that makes any sense, Brother Darren.
No, it makes perfect sense. And look, once again,
Yeah.
ironically, we could have this conversation all night because we're both putting some very cogent points to each other. And in all fairness, what we're both saying is both right. That we've come so far, so much water has gone under the... Hey, we've not even gone under the bridge. We're now in the ocean and then some. It's like, all right, it's up to you guys to now take control. How are you going to go about it? Because we've put so many things, we've named you so many things over the years. We've done so many things to you. All right, well, how are you now going to, get the wheat through the chaff? What is it what you're comfortable with? What banner are you going to rock under? So, in all fairness, everybody has a valid point here.
Can I say just one thing?
Go ahead.
I think the word African, as you said, Raven, and it can mean white African also, but we can specify it by saying West Africans coming together, East Africans coming together, Central Africa coming together. If we specify it, then we know we are talking about Black Africa. Because if we just say white Africa, white Africa, we have to take in the North and South Africa. If we don't want to take them in, we can just say West Africa or East Africa,
Let Brother Icy do his perspective and I'll jump in after. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, okay. Two things. One, I want to go into what Darren was saying on the land issue, and then on Brother Glub, what he's saying. See, if you use North Africa or West Africa, that doesn't mean black, because you'll find white people will say, well, I was born in West Africa, so I'm a West African, and then you get into that all their arguments. So West Africa or East Africa or South Africa is not good enough if you want to refer to black Africans, because everybody else or an Asian will say, well, I was born in South Africa, I'm a South African. Yeah, so that's my point on that. To do with Darren's point, now this is where it can get tricky, or for me anyway. I am saying, holding this position. I am saying that an effective organization of people classified as black, that effective organization itself, what's the word? And the power that comes from that effective organization enables people associated with that organization to hold and secure land. Just being in a land and just standing there and saying I was born here does not generate power. They say, okay, well, yeah, you were born in Africa. You'll get down those mines and dig those diamonds out, and then then we're going to put them on a ship and take them somewhere else. We might even take you as well. So just because you're on a land, there's no power there. The power comes from organization, and those who organize black people will then be able to secure Africa for the Africans. That's it.
It's kind of like what came first, the chicken or the egg? Everything what you
That's
said
right.
makes sense. But at the same time, it's a case of, well, wait a minute, if we aren't giving power to Africans, to Africa, well, what are we saying? We're giving power to the name black? Or are we trying to say, no, 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 we all do originate from Africa, right? You have a problem with one, you have a problem with all. So, yeah, it's
But I'm
very...
saying, no, that's too weak. Go on then.
Like I said,
I'm
it's
saying
a very...
it's weak. African power will come from blackness.
True, but once again, it's still a case, well, you're still an African doing for Africa, doing for other Africans.
But we're talking about power now. The power
Yes,
will come
this is
through
it.
the organization. The power is in the word black and blackness.
But like I said, I do differ with that and saying that the power should actually come from the word African. Because once again, this is it. Should, and hopefully one day it will. Because ultimately, we still got one too many people utilizing that lovely 1885 Treaty of Berlin Act, where they're in Africa, raping it to hell, and benefiting off it. But we'll tell the likes of you and me, you don't want to go there. Have you not seen the latest water aid advert? Yeah, flies, potbellies, starvation, and all of that. You blacks don't want to go back there. And yet them are rape it off billion by billion, year after year.
Yes, you're correct, but there's not enough power in the word African. There's not enough power in the identity African. The power is in black identity. Then you can enjoy African and Caribbean and whatever.
Yeah. So when I describe black people, there's different types, but I do describe black people of African descent, right? Black people of Aboriginal descent, and I make a distinction between black people of Africa and black people of Australasia, and the Pacific Island. The work I particularly do, like 99% of the work I do, is for black people of African American descent, or African Caribbean, African American, and Aboriginal, and the Africans on the continent, right? So, I hear that. I think what it is like I said, it has to be for current time. It has to be multi-layered, because sometimes you might use certain words that go over some people's head. And I think Brother Abdi said himself, like when you talk to the individual, you're saying African, and sometimes you talk to the black, because their understanding differs, right? But one thing I try to let people know is when I talk about black people, I'm talking about Africans, Aboriginal Africans, people who are on the land, born from black historical standpoint, or their offspring who moved, not moved, but were pushed to other lands, right?
Mm-hmm.
And no matter what happens, black you never get confused with the black. You never, the black is one thing that they understand, or African. You're going to see 10-hour debates from North Africans. And just what I was saying to Brother Abdi before I forget, the reason why we can't not say North Africans, because in North Africa today, there is still tons of Aboriginal black people who live there. And also, historically, there was a time where the masses were actually of black Aboriginal stock. So this is the history of the land, and something we try to bring up. That's why we would never not mention North Africa. And also, the slave trade still continues in Libya, and the people most affected, once you find, are the so-called sub-Saharan Africans who find themselves there.
Yeah, I kind of agree there, but when we are here in the West, we are black. Everybody's black. They know, because they're gonna experience. They know they're different. We are black and all that. But when you go back home in Africa, to the so-called black countries, they don't accept that word. They never heard of this black word. So that's why you guys are talking about the word there's power in the word black, but not in African. It's because of history. The word African was never used in history
Yeah.
for African countries to come together and be independent. But you have that history in the word black, so we can't say it's impossible for there to be a power in the word African. There can be the power in the word African if we use it correctly, and we have to. Even though there's black people in North Africa, first we have to think about the mass black people in West and East Africa. We have to help them first, because the people in North
Yeah.
Africa it's impossible to help if you can help the full black countries. We have to
Yeah.
help the full black countries first, and then the other
Okay.
people.
Okay. It's interesting listening to you speak, but you notice um, the power is in the word black. You see, because if you talk about West Africa, North Africa, you, there's it's not actually specifying. And you said there's power. You believe there's power in the word African if it is used properly. Now, the question I'm asking you: what is the proper way to use the word African?
If we specify it to a region where there's most black people, if we instead of going into the base of if North Africa black village or South Africa black, if we wanna not discuss those discussions, we can just say West Africa and East Africa. Then people will exactly know what we are talking about, like the Black Africa. In the West, we can say Black Africa, but I'm talking about if we wanna talk to people from there who's not aware of this or don't accept this word black, they don't want to identify as black, we can just say, okay, help your country first or these people. We can just, if we're gonna get our message across, because it's all about how we are gonna make black people come together. If we wanna get a message across, we don't wanna use language that they don't understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. They're gonna have to use it, or else it's not gonna work. They'll be
No, no.
rolled over like they're doing now. Like they're.
Well, once again, this is because we're neo-colonialism. It's not no fault of them. It's not no fault of ours why we're in this position what we are in. They all know this is by design, truly by design. This is one of the biggest social experiments with a race and the certain people who's designed that social design. They're laughing their derrieres off right now. So once again, there you have it. You have Africans in Africa. Well, I am African. I am of Africa. Why should I now call myself black? You have African Americans, some 42 plus million, if I'm not mistaken. They are known as African Americans. Yeah, they rock with the black as well. That's just how we are now. We've been westernized, but ultimately they have been labeled African Americans. So you put them
Yes.
together. You put them together, African Americans. You put Africans together from the continent of Africa. That far outdoes us from the UK and South America. So who's going to win on this one now? If it's going to be a number thing, who's going to win?
Of course,
Black
it's gonna
is
be the
power.
base
African power
Africans
versus
against
black
the
power.
people who call themselves black. But there's no
They're
African
the
power.
most
That's what I'm saying.
organized. The what?
There's no African power. There has never been an African power in history.
Right, but there's black
You know?
power. Yes, there's black
Yes,
power
because of
though.
the West,
And
the
that works.
situation in the West.
Yes,
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 there
because
you
it
go,
works
brother.
in the West doesn't mean it works in Africa. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
it does work in Africa because they're colonizing Africa right now. All the diamonds and the oil is being shipped out right now as we're speaking. The ships are on the ocean, so it's
Yes,
functionally
yes,
fully in action in Africa. And Somalia
yes. But the
is split up
people,
into three. The Italians and the British are there.
yeah, I know. But I'm saying the Africans who are there will never understand this word black come together under this word black. They will never understand that. You can
Well,
try
they'll
it
stay under
many
the
times.
colonialists then. They'll have to get comfortable with the colonialists
I
because
think
this is the only counter. Go on.
I think
Because everybody don't speak English.
I'm gonna agree with Abdi, I think you're misunderstanding what he's trying to say. What he's saying, there's a lot of ethnic groups in Africa who wouldn't refer to the color of their skin as black because it's actually brown, various shades of brown,
Yes.
and everybody. The
You know
majority of
that.
people, one minute, IC, if you let me finish, the majority of people in Africa
Mhm.
are of a very shade of brown and on the darker shade of brown. Yeah. So because everybody is that various shades of brown, dark shade of brown, it's not it's irrelevant because everybody's it. So nobody's it. It's not significant the color of the skin if you count out North Africa. And yeah, count out them because I know they're mixed and been there, even though they've been there for a long time. Just count them out for a minute. Let's just talk about the people who are actually indigenous and not of mixed heritage, yeah? Because everybody's brown, nobody's brown, everybody's black, everybody's, you know what I mean? So nobody's black. So that's what it means. It means that it's not going to translate well in native African languages because, for one, how are you going to explain the word? How are you going to, if you go and pick up the average little black kid, yeah, you say your skin's black, yeah, you get a crayon that's black and you get a crayon that's brown. Which one are they going to say is nearer their skin? They're more likely going to pick up the brown crayon because they can see that black is actually, you've got to be really, really dark. Yeah. So that's why it's not going to translate well. Yeah. And everybody's it. So everybody's got an ethnic group. Everybody's got a native language. Why? I think all he's trying to say is why would they associate with some, why would they let outsiders define who they are when they know who they are because they're the ones sitting and living on the land?
I
Now,
mean,
I just
yeah,
think you should choose both terms. It
interchange.
doesn't have to be set in stone. You can use the black term when you're outside of Africa, but when you're in Africa, you will have to respect and understand that not every person that is what white people call black is gonna embrace that label.
Right. I hear it, family. Now, guys, we usually go for 2 hours, and in 10 minutes it'll be 2 hours. We had a great discussion. So, if everyone would like to give their kind of like roundup of of their thought patterns, and just before you do that, just so you know, in all the documents I write, I always put this star and term, and I say historically non-black people have been named. The people today have become known as black. This name might have many negative overtones. Mount Mellon uses the name black as a way to communicate to those people or place a star after the word with a capitalized the first letter. One goal when unity is more spread globally is to come up with a new term or even do away with terms totally to describe black people. So right now, black and African, these are working terms. Both are fantastic words. But once we actually have a collective unity and then like an elite group working towards a singular betterment, then we can name how we want to use it. Because black came before my existence, if people get confused by the word black, I use the word greater black. And I'm also I also understand Africa, which I use because that's a cultural name and a people name. So I'm happy with all. But yeah, I will change depending on who I'm speaking to. So brother Darren, African brother, and to brother IC3, that's my black brother. If you understand that, right? That's how.
Yeah.
There you go. So yeah, everyone do if they could just wind up where they're at, then we can just. It's been a great time. So you go through. Any last words, Sister Betty?
Yeah, I would just say don't get lost in the labels. That's what I say. Don't get lost in the labels. We understand both terms, but keep it moving because labels change over time, and there's nothing set in stone. The only change in the universe. The only constant in the universe is change. So, because before, like the guy said, they were calling us Negro, they were calling us Moors. Now, the next minute, they're calling us Black. Now they're calling us African. Do you know what I mean? So, maybe in another 50 years, they would have got rid of the term African and Black, and we're on to a new term. So, that's all I'm saying. And I had a lovely time. Thank you.
Great. Brother Darren, would you like to say your last piece?
Yeah, thank you, brother. Yeah, thanks, Sister Betty. Yeah, it's like you said, it's funny that you showed the characteristics of a black person, once again, that's those phenotypes right there, often actual African. But once again, it's still a case we need to be very cognizant that if we're not utilizing that word African, we're not educating our brothers and sisters of what it means to say African and be a proud African at that. Well, guess what? Our African land, continent will continue to be raped and be brutalized and sodomized. So like I said, I fully appreciate what you're saying, Brother Raven. I'll rock with you where I can on this, because I understand why you have to go with the black or the greater black. But ultimately, there needs to be an education for those who seems to be uncomfortable utilizing the word Africa, because without Africa, well, where's your sovereignty? Where is it? And that's me. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. That I agree 100% with that. And collectively, we will educate people on what it means to be African and the pride and magnificence that is Africa. Next, we have who has IC3, brother IC3. Would you like to say the last hurrahs?
There will be no African power until they learn black power. IC3 black power, by the way.
Touche.
Thank you, brother. And now, Abdi, you started, so you can finish. Anything you have to end on, brother?
Yes, I would just say thank you for the opportunity and chatting with you guys. I would just say that just like Betty said, the labels is not that important. It's about the people and have constructive discussions, and just like today, and just keep it moving and try our best to come together.
Nice. So, guys, like I said, before I go, just to say that the way this show works is we invite two guests to come on every week to talk about a topic they want to talk about. And then we have a back and forth, and then we invite people to jump on to get involved. That's how it is. So if you would like to get involved, leave a message in the comment or message me on Instagram. That's @RapRaven. And we'll get you on. But hopefully I'll see everyone again here next week. And thank you very much. And with that, I'm going to say goodbye. Good show, and have a good time, and look after each other, and Black Betterment. So see you guys.
Okay. Good night, all. Good night. Bye.
Yes.
Right, family.
Night.